Welcome to the Solid Verbal. The Solid Verbal.
Come after me! I'm a man! I'm 40!
I've heard so many players say, well, I want to be happy. You want to be happy for a day? Eat a steak.
It's that woo woo.
And now, Dan and Ty.
Welcome back to the Solid Verbal, boys and girls. My name is Ty Hildenbrand. Joining me once again, my good friend, now back in his home of homes in New York City, Dan Rubenstein, newly married. How are you?
Is the word betrothed?
Betrothed, yes.
I am newly married. I have a ring on my ring finger on my left hand, and it's official.
Are you used to the feel of the ring yet? That's like
Oh, I'm not betrothed. Betrothed is engaged. I am wed.
Are you used to the ring yet? That's my go-to question as like an icebreaker for all my newly married friends.
I'm not. Yeah, sort of. I take it off when I shower because it's a little bit big, and so like washing your hands with soap, it sort of gets a little slippery, and I'm concerned. So I need to get it sized a bit.
Yeah.
But I play with the ring all day. I'm spinning it all day with the thumb. So I assume that doesn't stop. No, used to the ring, used to married life. I've lived with her, lived with the now solid wife. I don't know what I'm going to call her now.
Yeah.
Because there's solid wife Kate. I guess I could call her by her name. I should probably.
And we can't go A and B because that's demeaning to the B, and certainly that's not our intention here.
Right. I will clear it with her. She's not famous. I don't know why this is such a big deal, but I'm going to clear it with her because that's what you're supposed to do now, right? You're supposed to really make sure
you got to get the waiver
cool
before you make any decision.
Absolutely.
Like that. Yeah.
Her name is not Kate.
Yeah. Okay.
So it'll be a little bit easy on that front. Life is good, Ty. Got back from mooning a few days ago. Was thrilled to have you and solid wife Kate in Chicago for the wedding.
Great. It was great. I'm honored to have been there.
It was terrific to see you and Doc Rubenstein chatting it up.
Yeah, I had a hearty discussion with Doc Rubenstein, both at the wedding, at the rehearsal dinner, at the wedding, and then the day after the wedding.
That's incredible.
We were talking politics, we were talking religion. I think we even talked a little bit of space, which, as you know, is sort of my wheelhouse.
Passion.
If you want to know the thrust of a Falcon Heavy rocket, I'm your guy. But no, it was good to see everyone.
That's a euphemism, I'm assuming.
Right.
You are really going for it. Yeah, so everything was good. We're going to recap everything, I think, at the back half of the show, but we're keeping everything thematic. We're keeping everything tight in terms of our discussion points today. And we have a show that I think interrelates college football, sort of big picture, and where we stand right now with marriage and a wedding and all things love. So I think we're just going to go for it in that direction.
Without further ado, here is what we're doing. Dan and I have put together a rather long list, if I don't say so myself, of college football marriages, college football unions, college football relationships.
Yes.
We're not necessarily talking about coach and school. Could be talking about school and conference. Could be talking about quarterback and school. Could be talking about man and actual wife, offense and school. A whole variety of different unions that we've come to know in the college football world. And we've chosen this opportunity to not only evaluate those relationships, but also talk in a little bit of depth about what we feel goes on behind the scenes.
Absolutely.
Things of that nature. So,
body stuff.
If I could...
There it is.
There it is, Dan. Really going.
Warms the cockles.
Really going. Is that Father of the Bride music, by the way?
It is. It is absolutely Father of the Bride music.
First one up here. It's a new marriage, Dan.
Okay.
Take that music down. Thank you. Okay. Lane Kiffin and Florida Atlantic University.
Yes.
Lane Kiffin recently announced as of, a couple months ago that he's the new head football coach at Florida Atlantic. Obviously, they're excited to get someone of Lane Kiffin's caliber. Instantly raises the profile of FAU. Dan, what do you think?
So this is about 6 months old. Certainly not his first choice.
No.
In that realm. He's recruited, interestingly, I would say, fair to say. Some, perhaps a little above FAU's normal level. Some interesting recruits there. I would say it's awkward. It doesn't look like a long-term fit, but it serves a purpose. Maybe like a green card marriage, Ty.
Ooh.
Maybe, Lane Kiffin wants something out of it. FAU wants something out of it. It's a marriage of convenience. And, FAU's profile is being raised. Lane Kiffin is there to prove that he can run a program responsibly, win, have an act two. And so both parties are getting something out of it. And it feels like college football, the citizenship of college football respectability. How about that?
A celebrity marriage is what came to mind for me.
Why is that?
One of convenience, one mostly about advancement and PR, raising the profile. This is Kim Kardashian and Chris Humphries.
Wow. I don't know who's who.
FAU would have to be Chris Humphries.
Okay.
Lane Kiffin's always had a little bit of Kim K in him, but just feels like one of PR. PR is like the central theme here. Yeah, I think for both sides. That being said, I think Lane Kiffin will absolutely make FAU better. I don't think there's any question about that. He's already brought a little excitement to the program. I'm sure he'll bring a little bit more controversy to the program before his time is through there. But to me, does not feel like it's going to last more than, 2 years?
It'll serve its purpose, Ty.
2 years? Over under 2 years?
And it's in Florida. So awkward marriages in Florida, that's fine.
Sort of a thing.
That's perfectly on point.
All right, let's move on. Let's go to a different one.
What do we got?
I have more music.
Let's stay in the state.
Let's stay in the great state of Florida. This isn't a coach in a school. This is a quarterback in a school. This is Malik Zaire in Florida. I talked a little bit last week in your absence about this with our good friend Andy Staples, but Malik Zaire, of course, grad transferring away from Notre Dame. Didn't quite work out at Notre Dame the way he had hoped, the way, frankly, a lot of Notre Dame fans had hoped. He now is going to press his luck at Florida. The overriding theme to me here is one of desperation.
Really?
Desperation on both sides. I think if you're Malik Zaire, you're desperate to just go out there and at least play a full season of major college
desperation
football.
might be an extreme word, but I see where you're going.
Desperation for him and certainly for Florida. If you're thinking of this in pure relationship terms, like if this is a Tinder situation, Florida swiped right on everybody. Everyone available who was other than what they presently had.
Yeah.
They swiped right. It just so happens that Malik Zaire swiped back. So for me, that's the theme here. It's one of desperation, maybe more so for the Florida Gators and Jim McElwain than Malik Zaire.
See, I'm looking at this as sort of a later in life, both parties looking for companionship, grad transfer, obviously. It's very promising just because, these two people have sort of shared experiences. One is looking, both are looking. It might be a little bit awkward for you, maybe as a grandchild, seeing your nutty grandmother splitting from your grandfather, but it's sort of for the best. You could see it, like they just sort of they weren't clicking anymore.
So,
and it's good that she found a companion. Are
you thinking gated community met during the Pinochle game kind of situation?
Yeah, like ultimately, it's probably not going to last decades. It's not going to last a long time.
Well, the situation you're describing, somebody dies first. That's the morbid reality of what you're describing to me.
The person that dies in this is eligibility.
Okay, right.
For Malik Zaire.
We're talking in all metaphors here.
Yeah, maybe sort of end your career, fitting in somewhere with someone that sort of makes you feel like the real you. How about that? Come on, Ty. I'm all about optimism now that I've been married for 1.5 weeks. I'm really feeling it.
Yeah, no, that's great. Really putting an optimistic slant on this.
Absolutely. Because listen, there is a higher ceiling for each now, right?
There is.
Because we don't know.
And there is definitely a reason for optimism.
Yeah.
Let's be honest. If we can duck out of the metaphor for a second. Malik Zaire.
Florida won the SEC East with lesser talent than Malik Zaire.
Totally.
So imagine what this marriage can be with a more attentive, in every way, Ty.
There you go.
Spouse.
Here's the thing, and Andy brought this up when we talked to him on last week's show.
You talked to him.
When I talked to him, he's not totally convinced that Zaire is going to win that job over Felipe Franks.
True.
He's not totally convinced. I mean, he needs to see a little bit more.
the whippersnapper in the retirement community.
Sure. I think Zaire would have to be the favorite at this point, but people are excited about Franks. He's just raw. At a minimum, provided everyone stays healthy, this gives you more depth than you've had ever in the Jim McElwain era. And believe me, if you're a Florida fan, I think you take that at this point. Even if Zaire never sees the field, to know that he is there in case something goes wrong to your starter, which is something you've had to deal with the last couple of years, you'll take that. You're cool with that. All right. Moving on. Speaking of the gated community 55 and older relationship, let's talk about Kirk Ferentz and the Iowa Hawkeyes, Dan.
Let's.
How you feel about this marriage?
Okay, so I really like Kirk Ferentz. He seemed like a very nice guy. When
we talked to him,
spoke to him. We did. So this is clearly longtime companion. Is he now the longest tenured coach with Bob Stoops stepping down?
He's been at Iowa for what? It feels like 92 years, so probably.
Yeah, so longtime companion, Kirk Ferentz is, to Iowa. There's nothing necessarily flashy. There's no spontaneous trips to a tropical island for, a surprise, just because, Ty. But he always remembers birthdays. He always remembers anniversaries.
Right.
It doesn't hurt that he married into money.
Is he still doing savings bonds for the grandkids?
Absolutely. He's responsible about that. He shows he gets back from work on time for dinner, whatever. Maybe a little bit of it's a little bit strange that their adult child is still living with them. A little bit strange, Brian Ferentz. But other than that, he's a rock, Ty. He is a rock in this relationship, and everybody's happy. Sometimes there might be looking outside and, what else is out there? Should we be, somebody more handsome, more beautiful, whatever. But you know what? Ultimately, they're right for each other.
I would describe this marriage as Eminem.
The rapper or the candy?
No. I'm talking Eminem. I made up my own acronym here.
Okay. Oh, M&M. Okay.
And it doesn't stand for anything, spicy. It stands for monotonous and monogamous. That's how I feel about this one. Have you ever seen a married couple that sort of looks a lot alike? Just physically, they look a lot alike when they walk through the mall. You see them next to each other, and it's, my God, they're becoming one another. I almost feel like that's what's going on with Kirk Ferentz and Iowa. They've almost assumed each other's identity. And if you saw them out in public wearing, matching jean jackets, it would totally relate.
I would push back a little bit on monotonous. I would say that every so often they go on a vacation that is memorable and sparks fly. And, maybe at the breakfast nook, every so often they're like, hey, remember Jamaica?
The open bar on the boat. Okay.
We're talking Orange Bowl. We're talking Rose Bowl. We're talking consistency. But there's a spike every so often. You're like, hey, remember when we went to that ski cabin?
Well, you need a spark for anything long-term like that.
Absolutely. So I'm saying not fully consistently monotonous. I'm saying there's some heartbeats on that EKG.
All right, moving on. So look, this next one to me feels like it has potential to go to that Iowa level. Now, it's not quite as monotonous, I don't think. And there's definitely been some extramarital flirting.
Really?
I feel like there probably has been. But David Shaw and Stanford, they also have a little begun to assume each other's identity. It might not be quite as boring and meat and potatoes as the Iowa situation that I described, but David Shaw and Stanford, to me, feels like a near perfect union. They're very alike in nearly every respect.
Yeah, I would say David Shaw and Stanford are the couple that they're just so dependably great on like a double date, Ty. You're just like, you know what? God, I love David and Melissa. They're great together. They're both successful. They both seem so into each other, maybe a little over the top into each other, that they're like, giggly and whatever when they're out together, but he's thoughtful, dependable, he's adventurous. The fire still burns, Ty. It burns bright. I would even go as far as saying when the couple goes home after a double date with David Shaw and Stanford, they're like, hey, why aren't you more like David? Stanford bakes all the time for David. David comes back with flowers all the time why can't you be a little bit more like them?
Their son,
I think
Kevin
that's what
Hogan is just a brilliant young man. Their younger son, Christian, he's going to turn out okay.
Absolutely.
It feels like
their
a
kids,
very, very perfect union to me.
The Christmas card, the holiday card for David Shaw and Stanford is just like, man, it just keeps getting, one's an executive, one's a doctor, one's a lawyer, one's, traveling the world and, working in orphanages in Asia. Just this family's got it together. And this couple, even with all of the kids and all of the time in college, that they've been through, David Shaw and Stanford are they just stare into each other's eyes and just have it for each other.
Just reliable.
Absolutely.
Reliable in every facet. If your car breaks down on the side of the road, you can call the Shaw household, the Stanford household.
Yeah.
They'll be there.
Anytime you doubt them, they're just still there for you.
All right. Let's do another one here.
Okay.
That was good. All right, Dan. Let's take a little bit of a left turn.
Okay.
Hugh Freeze and Ole Miss.
Mm-hmm.
This marriage has seen some better days, hasn't it?
Listen, Ty, it started out gangbusters. We're talking about
they all do.
Trips. They all do. The honeymoon period was just electric. We're talking Mile High Club, Ty.
Okay. All right. Pipe it down now.
Okay. I'm just saying, just can't keep their paws off each other.
Yeah.
And at a certain point, when you have two people who are so passionate, it's sort of like with the great fire comes a lot of smoke.
Yeah.
Comes a lot of, embers, comes a lot of heat. And that's not always the healthiest thing, Ty. And, burn bright to start.
I think they're just flaming out.
But when you have that in your gut, Ty, when you've got that fire and something's not always there to deal with it, maybe there's some cheating. Maybe there's some, maybe not fully, you don't have full evidence.
What I'm hearing is that this is a marriage built on lust and not love.
That's what I'm trying to get at. Maybe Ole Miss or maybe Hugh Freeze discovered some weird texts, maybe bank account activity that just seems a little bit off.
See, I wrote down credit card debt on my sheet here.
There it is, Ty.
It feels to me like a situation like you described. A lot of passion, a lot of lust to begin the marriage. And then slowly but surely one side has mismatched expectations.
Sure.
Wants an in-ground pool. Wants a beach house. Runs up the credit card. Things start to kind of come off the swivel very casually. They become, different people on different pages. And that's when things start to go awry. Started great,
Every so often, they can still click.
They
Remember what brought them together.
Had a few great years with Dr. Bo. I mean, Dr. Bo brought them together, but here we sit now, and I think it's a case of mismatched expectations at this point.
Yeah. Listen, not everybody was meant to be long-term.
Is Ole Miss going to be any good this year?
I like quarterback situation.
Yeah.
I like Shea Patterson.
I like Shea Patterson.
That can cover for a lot. I don't think the depth is going to be there for a double-digit type run, even close to it, but I think they can be exciting.
I wonder, though, with all the depth elsewhere in the SEC West, because even if that side of the conference dips a little bit because there's been turnover, it's still pretty tough.
True. The good news is I think the offenses right now in the SEC West aren't necessarily the scariest pack.
Yeah.
We don't really know what to expect out of LSU. Texas A&M still has quarterback issues. Mississippi State, as promising as Nick Fitzgerald is, didn't put up a ton of offense at all times last season. Alabama should be good, but lose a lot on defense. Offensively, I think we're more confident in Alabama than we have been for a long time, just in terms of certainty of system, even without Lane Kiffin, but just with what they bring back. But it's not the worst time for Ole Miss to have to win every game 41-33.
All right. Let's move on. Before we do, a quick story here about our sponsor, Blue Apron. By the way, if you don't listen to the ads, please do. That helps.
Yes, it very much does.
They sent me a script here, and I'm not going to read it because I actually have a really cool story.
Rebel.
A woman I work with has a son who's on an internship.
Mm-hmm.
in the greater Northeast. I won't give too much away, but he's got an internship, and he's not
New York Islanders.
He's not right. He plays goalie for the Islanders. Correct. Mm-hmm. No, he's up near Boston, but he's in an area where there's not an accessible grocery store. It's like 45 minutes away. That's not convenient.
That's rough.
It's not convenient. So her and I got to talking. I told her about Blue Apron. She said, "Do you think that would be a good idea for my son?" I said, "Well, you could give it a pull." I gave her our code. Mm-hmm. She tried it out. She's now sending it to him on a weekly basis. He loves it. He never cooked before in his life. Doesn't have easy access to a grocery store, so if he comes home, doesn't really have any options outside something he can grab quick that's unhealthy. Now he's got something in Blue Apron that's quick, it's easy, it's helping him learn how to cook, and is probably more exquisite than he would cook on his own. Because it comes, they give you step-by-step instructions, pre-portioned ingredients, all that right to your door, and all for less than $10 a meal, Dan.
Mm-hmm. Oh, it's the greatest deal.
Really good deal. You can customize the recipes based on your preferences, pick a delivery option, you can pick a day that's right for you, and there's no weekly commitment. So I would hope that my friend from work, when the internship's over, she would continue to send this to her wonderful son.
Absolutely.
But there's no commitment on her part. She didn't even got to tell me. If she decides that it's not something he's into anymore, she can pull it back.
And it's great to cook for yourself. It's a great skill to have. Cook for others.
The one part of the script I did want to leave in here, though, are some of the meals available in June. Because there's at least one word here I don't know how to pronounce.
I love it. Here we go.
Warm smoked trout and asparagus salad with fingerling potatoes and garlic croutons.
Yep.
Good so far. Spiced zucchini enchiladas with creamy lime and tomato rice. Easy enough.
You nailed it. Yeah.
Then there's this word. Elote-style vegetable tostadas with summer squash and poblano peppers and cilantro rice. Is it elote or elote?
It's elote. It's Mexican-style street corn.
Damn.
So, sometimes some lime, sometimes some cotija cheese, sometimes some cayenne or some sort of pepper. Very, very good. It's sort of sweet and spicy and acidic. Yes. Elote.
And then peach honey glazed chicken with mashed sweet potatoes, collard greens, and Thai basil. That's THI, not TY.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
For those of you playing the home game. Check it out, blueapron.com/solid to get your first 3 meals for free if you want to try it. With free shipping, blueapron.com/solid. You're going to love how good it feels and tastes to cook incredible home cooked meals with Blue Apron. Don't wait. Blueapron.com/solid. Blue Apron, a better way to cook. Moving on. All right, Dan. You put this one on here.
I did. So we have a marriage between Notre Dame and not Brian Kelly. Notre Dame and Independence.
Notre Dame and Independence. This isn't a real relationship, though.
I mean, what is Notre Dame's full-time conference affiliation?
Notre Dame is married to Independence, but Independence is not married to Notre Dame.
It's the idea of independence.
This is a My Strange Addiction situation, like where someone's into eating glass or hugging their car. Something like,
wow, comparing Notre Dame's full-time conference affiliation to eating glass. Okay.
There's an unbalance between Notre Dame and Independence. Notre Dame loves, wants, needs that independence. Independence, because it is not a real entity, couldn't give two you-know-whats about Notre Dame.
I'm going to look up the standings on ESPN.com for each conference and see where Notre Dame is listed. There it is, CFB Independence. That's what I'm seeing, Ty. There is a label.
Joking aside, here's what I know about Notre Dame and Independence.
Okay.
I can't speak from the Independence side of this relationship.
Mm-hmm.
Because I don't think it's a real side, but
we're just talking about the relationship as a whole.
The relationship as a whole is this. I can speak to it from the Notre Dame side of things.
Mm-hmm.
I was surprised, and I think non-Notre Dame fans would be surprised if they really had a good sense for how much Notre Dame values its independence. I think there is an impulse among Notre Dame haters out there to look at this and say that Notre Dame just thinks they're better than Big Ten, ACC, Pac-12,
the conventions,
Big 12, right? They think they're better than college football norms. Therefore, they are not in a conference. I can tell you that that's an inaccurate depiction of Notre Dame. Notre Dame values that independence. And there are many examples of Notre Dame acting like it is better than something. All right. I don't want to discredit that part of the equation. But this is not one of those cases. They really, truly have built this football program around this notion of independence, that they can go and play a USC one week, that they can go and play a Florida State the next week, that they're not tied into any real true conference affiliation, though they play a lot of ACC teams. It really is the bedrock on which a lot of the thinking, the planning, the whatever that this football program is built. So it's definitely not coming from a place of holier than thou, though many other aspects of the program may be.
So I would say it's not an arranged marriage, Ty, but sort of in that old-fashioned kind of way. They came together because they sort of fit together. Okay. And what works for them might not work for others. And maybe they never had kids and they just sort of traveled the world and enjoyed life their way. And maybe their friends say, well, why don't you live in a cold place. Why don't you move to Florida, Arizona, or California? You're like, you know what? We like what we like. We like living here in Indiana.
What about a common law marriage for this?
That's not bad.
It's just they've been together for so long. At this point, to change wouldn't really make sense. It wouldn't make either of them happy to be apart from the other. Common law marriage. I don't know what the statute is for common law, but certainly they've eclipsed it at this point, right?
Maybe an older couple who they just they eat dinner, they eat breakfast at the place they like, they eat dinner at the place they like. Maybe their friends say, like, why don't you try Japanese food? Yeah. Why don't you try Mexican food? And like, whoa, we like our diner.
No, we're good.
We like our diner. We like what we like. And there's, maybe every so often one or the other has some, or maybe just Notre Dame, I guess, because that's the only true entity, has some lingering resentment over what could have been.
Yeah.
But ultimately, we're just a diner couple. That's who we are.
All right. I have nothing for this one.
I have something.
This is
I always have something.
You do. This is Texas A&M and the SEC, Dan.
Yes.
I'll tell you what I was trying to kind of conjure up.
Mm-hmm.
To me, A&M in the SEC, logistically speaking, fits very well. It made a ton of sense to bring them into the SEC.
Yeah.
It still feels, though, like the SEC hasn't fully accepted A&M.
Okay.
So they fit, they don't fully fit. And that's about as far as I got.
Here's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking a divorcee, maybe not fully thinking through marrying a high-maintenance trophy spouse.
Okay.
Looks great in pictures, on paper, in certain scenarios.
Okay.
Fancy dinners. You've got this beautiful human on your arm. But, God, the maintenance is tough. There's, they're expensive, and, they come with friends who are expensive and just sort of a pain. And you really didn't think through everything that would come along with, getting married so quickly after divorcing.
Okay.
And the maturity, the understanding, it may just never happen. It might just be sort of separate pages that, we're satisfied with the situation, but never really fulfilled.
You're describing some sort of escort service that ultimately led to marriage. That's what I'm hearing here, Dan.
Well, money's involved, Ty.
Yeah.
Lots of money. So that's where I'm at right now. A divorcee sort of thinking things would be better, but ultimately, maybe it's an uphill battle, Ty. It's an uphill battle.
Who is a divorcee in this equation?
Well, Texas A&M leaving the Big 12.
Okay.
Leaving the Big 12, which was, an ex that was, it was a rocky relationship, Ty.
It was rocky.
It was a rocky, and ultimately, a defensible break. But, there's baggage there, Ty.
All right.
There's baggage.
Let's stay in the SEC, if you don't mind.
Please.
I'm excited about this one. I have a hunch that after working on this show together for nearly 10 seasons now, you and I are going the same place with Ed Orgeron and LSU.
Yes.
This is one of
I think
passion.
So. Oh, yeah.
This is raw, ripping your clothes off passion here, Dan.
It's still very early, so that's not
still
wrong.
very early. It could be a lust situation like we described earlier with Hugh Freeze, but I don't think so. I think this is, I just wrote down on my sheet, passionate intercourse.
Yeah, I think it's different. I think it's different than Hugh Freeze. And I'll tell you why, Ty. Ed Orgeron has long had his eye on this spouse.
Okay.
Oh, long time crush.
Like a high school sweetheart.
Absolutely. But you know what, Ty? As is what happens. You go your separate ways. You get married to others and you live your life. And, maybe it could have been, maybe not. Who will ever know, barring crazy circumstances? But here we are.
Cam Cameron just didn't make you feel dangerous.
Both divorced. Yeah. Both find themselves in the hometown, the home state. And you're like, why not? And finally made his move. Perhaps a bit paranoid because so much has gone into this in his head that, LSU is getting hit on and eyed all the time by all these other schools trying to have camps in the state of LSU. So he is fiercely protective, but we're still in that honeymoon stage. So, maybe a little overreacting, if they're out at a restaurant and a stranger comes up or, a friend comes up and is a little bit too handsy or something like that.
Yeah, you're right. You're right.
But, the passion runs deep. Let's hope it doesn't run too fiercely.
And LSU always kind of had a type too.
Yes.
It always needed a little bit of crazy, a dash of crazy. It tried Les Miles for a while.
Yeah.
Maybe this is a second marriage situation. An over 50 union. Who knows?
Oh, absolutely.
Always kind of had that type, maybe with Ed Orgeron in the back of its mind.
Yeah.
Getting a different kind of crazy now. But it's getting crazy in a different way.
Well, I mean, that's what they say, Ty. It's your sexual peak.
Yeah. All right.
I don't know where I'm going with that.
Let's move on very quickly. A weird marriage here that we're going to describe.
Mm-hmm.
You have on our sheet, you picked this one.
Yeah.
I love this idea. The marriage between the Power Five and the Group of Five. So for those of you playing along at home, no idea what we're talking about. Power 5 conferences, obviously ACC, Big 10, Big 12, Pac-12, SEC. Group of 5, I could go and name those two, but essentially...
Mountain West team, Sun Belt, American, Conference USA,
essentially, and, it's not their fault. They're sort of viewed as the kids' table. I'm sure there are Group of 5 fans out there who are going to tweet in, that's not the right analogy, but...
I'd say more like triple A, quadruple A kind of thing.
You get the picture. You get the picture. They're kind of not viewed similarly because
fewer resources. Yeah.
Fewer resources. It's difficult for them to compete with the big boys,
Absolutely.
so to speak. This to me, Dan, feels like the guy who gets married but golfs 7 nights a week and just does his best to spend minimal time with his spouse.
Okay.
Maybe they both like Game of Thrones. That's their Sunday night. That's what they do as a couple. Game of Thrones, Sunday night, 7 episodes during the summer. Quick, easy, painless. They could even watch it on demand if they want. But otherwise, they live at the same address, but it's not particularly close. Maybe separate bedrooms.
Yeah.
Maybe not active fighting.
Sure.
But just maybe sort of a marriage out of convenience. Not a lot of love there.
I'd say, married early on and through their trials and tribulations. And, as what happens sometimes with a younger marriage, maybe they grow in different directions, Ty.
Yeah.
One gets in better shape. One sort of lets themselves go. One, is career oriented. One doesn't care about career at all and focuses on other things. They have the same general interest. Maybe they're good parents. What's good for one is good for the other when it comes to the kids and general interest, good people. But there's a gap that's growing between the two of them. And, maybe they don't want to acknowledge it. Things can be awkward on double dates and group dinners.
Yeah.
But ultimately they're in it for at least one good reason, but not at the same time always the most compatible with their big picture stuff.
I mean, look, it was nice at Christmas when Charlie Strong was under the Christmas tree.
Yeah.
I thought that was a nice gesture. But things like that are few and far between.
True.
All right. Moving on.
It happens, Ty.
All right. Clay Helton and USC.
Yeah. Still very young.
You put this one down on the list.
Yeah.
I was actually going to put it down on the list if you didn't, but you beat me to the punch here. I have many thoughts on this one, but I want you to go first. I wonder if this isn't another one where we're both thinking along the same wavelength.
Yeah, so Clay Helton, always it's been in USC's life for a little bit. Friends, never really thought about each other in that sort of serious way. But, after a chance encounter, they realized they had more in common than realized it was sort of the right person for you. Honeymoon's still ongoing. Spouse already has a beautiful house. It's just a matter of, do your yard work. Take care of the simple things, because Clay Helton married into a lot of money. Just don't screw up things, and you're going to have a good life. There's already a beautiful car in the garage just waiting for Clay to drive. And so just maintain those chores. Just be a good guy and, clean out the gutters, Ty.
I don't disagree with any of that.
Okay.
I think that's spot on. I would layer on top of it one other life event that led to this being what it is. There was definitely a one-night stand involved here that led to a love child being Sam Darnold.
Whoa. But
paternity. Love child.
Paternity, though. Was it the ex-husband's?
I don't know. I've never really asked those questions, but I feel like the love child in this equation is Sam Darnold.
Yeah.
Because let's be honest, if Sam Darnold isn't there last year, if it's Max Brown the entire season, and if things come off the rails, and if they don't end up in the Rose Bowl, if they don't have the Good Son, if they end up with Macaulay Culkin from the Good Son, it's a different story here. But Sam Darnold, Rose Bowl, victory, exciting game over Penn State.
I think you're alluding to a literal redheaded stepchild.
That's right. If things go differently, we're talking about this in a much, much different sense now in 2017.
Yeah. True.
A little bit of a one-night stand situation there. But it's working out so far.
I think it looks great. I think they're a great couple.
They're very cute. Okay.
We'll see what happens.
The triple option and Georgia Tech.
Yeah.
Always an unlikely marriage, I thought. Anytime you've got the triple option going to a Power 5 school, it is certainly, it's not 1920 anymore. To have that kind of system being run within a Power 5 school is certainly far from the norms. It's a little odd. One of them's got an exotic pet, which is okay. I feel like this is a marriage that is in counseling.
Okay. So I'm going to differ from you a little bit. I think this is the ultimate open marriage.
Okay.
Where seems like a good idea. It's like, hey, should we do this? Should we run this Flexbone?
Yeah.
Should we? I think we're going to get... Are we going to, maybe look at other couples and, maybe they're a little bit younger and doing some crazy things. Should we? And they go for it, Ty.
New meaning for the wishbone. Yeah, right.
Absolutely. I don't think they fully thought through the repercussions.
Yeah,
whether it's,
I agree.
What the baggage that comes along with that. So whether it be recruiting, whether it be, trying to convince players to run a certain way, whether it's, the quarterback situation, and listen, I don't know this personally, but there are highs, Ty. There are absolute highs where you're just, you've got situations brewing.
Yeah, right.
That, maybe other schools, the limitations are preventing. So this open marriage, with great highs come great lows, though. And so they're very distinct and seems like a good idea. And you know what, Ty? For certain people, it is.
Yeah.
Certain people can pull it off, but it takes discipline and it takes understanding. And the ups and downs may be too much for Georgia Tech long term. So other couples that are looking at Georgia Tech are saying, but look what they're doing some interesting things.
They're making
some choices.
This is also a second marriage. But it's one in which both sides have children from previous relationships, previous marriages.
Oh, definitely.
And they all need convincing. None of them are totally sure it's going to work.
Oh, yeah. No, trust me. This is going to be spicy.
Could be spicy. Isn't always, but
right.
I think a lot of counseling there.
Yep.
Moving on.
Fair.
Speaking of offensive marriages, or offensive marriages, depending on your point of view.
Yeah.
Let's talk about Gus Malzahn's offense and its relationship with Auburn, Dan.
Yeah.
I see this as a potential divorce in the near future.
Interesting. Fresh off the Sugar Bowl.
Off the Sugar Bowl. I like Auburn. I like Jared Stidham. I think Sean White did an admirable job, even though I did everything to tear him down in my power last year. But it's not the same. And Andy Staples, when we had him on a week ago, talked about this. And he said, look, Gus Malzahn knows how to coach offense, but it's not the same when he doesn't have Cam Newton. It's not the same when he doesn't have Nick Marshall. It's not the same when he doesn't have that true dual threat quarterback. And Jared Stidham has a little bit more of that than Sean White, no doubt. But he's not Cam Newton. He doesn't run like Nick Marshall. So Andy seemed reasonably skeptical that this is something that's going to work out long term. Malzahn applying his offense or his version of that offense to presumably what Jared Stidham brings to the table. So I see this as a potential divorce. I got to be honest. I hate to be pessimistic when it comes to marriage, but the statistics are about 50-50 nowadays.
So I have
coin
optimism.
Flip when you get out there, Dan. You and I, one of us,
That's
statistically speaking, it's not looking good for one of us.
Okay.
You got to be a realist here. So I'm thinking that Gus Malzahn might be getting the short end of the stick here.
Wow. I'm a little bit more optimistic than you are. It's a relationship that has had its ups and downs, started pretty powerfully, but sometimes you need a spark. And this year with the Jarrett Stidham situation, maybe they're going for outside help. Maybe they're really going for it and taking a vacation. They're going to the Caribbean. They're going to the Bahamas. They're going to Mexico. Yeah. And they're just like, they're going to sort it all out there. And we just need that spark.
Some kind of retreat.
A retreat. Absolutely. There's a situation from the Gus side where he always has this complex, maybe overshadowed by his more successful, the marriage of the more successful big brother. Ty, where, everything is sort of compared to them.
So there's a complex.
And it's not quite fair to either side. And I think what they have to do is get over that. And so if this couple can accept the marriage for what it is, I think they'll be in okay shape. But it's a matter of perspective. It's a matter of context. It's a matter of expectation and setting those expectations at a reasonable place.
You know what it kind of feels like to me?
What's that?
It feels to me like a situation where there's a marriage and both went into it thinking that they wanted children.
Mm-hmm. Oh, and then one side is...
But shortly into it, one of them changed their mind. It's like, I still want kids. No, I don't. We're at an impasse.
I was trying to think of who if your older sibling was what is a marriage where, at least from the outside, we're thinking, man, it's like Gus Malzahn's older brother is John Legend. And he's singing to Chrissy Teigen on TV.
Yeah.
And Auburn's like, why aren't you singing to me why you're not John Legend?
Yeah.
What are you? Why aren't you doing and then he's like, well, you're no Chrissy Teigen, and it's a whole thing.
It's a big thing, yeah. And then he tries. Maybe he tries. Gets a few Shiner box in him. He tries, Dan. Tries to be Johnny Legend. But it just pisses off Auburn.
Right.
Quit trying to be something you're not.
And she's just like, you're Ed Sheeran. You're never going to be John Legend.
Yeah. And Ed Sheeran's fine. Ed Sheeran's fine.
Ed Sheeran's great.
He's great, but he wants to be John Legend. Yeah.
Yeah. You have to know your role. You have to know the context. You have to know your place in life.
Wow. I feel like we really got somewhere with that one, Dan.
Absolutely. I have a bonus one that I didn't put on our list.
Okay.
Just because I thought about it a few minutes before the show. Okay. And that is the still relatively young, but it is now developed into an interesting place, marriage between Chris Peterson and the Washington Huskies. And I have some thoughts. I don't know if you have thoughts. Yeah, I'm just springing this on you.
Well, let's think of some of the atmospherics around this relationship here. There was talk for a while that Washington would be the only job he would leave Boise for.
Chris Peterson, bachelor for life.
Yeah, there was talk that was a job that he really wanted.
Will he ever settle down?
He was obviously very, very satisfied, I think, from a career standpoint, being at Boise State. And there was much debate about if he would ever decide to go and play in a Power 5 situation. He's obviously gone on now to thrive at Washington, and he seems happy there.
I'm thinking Chris Peterson is like, you look at him and you look at Washington from afar, and you're like, is that the perfect relationship? This isn't a David Shaw and Stanford where they've been together for a while and you've seen them in all sorts of scenarios and it just keeps clicking and working. But you look at them and you're like, man, they haven't figured out. He's printing itineraries for their trips. He's like, she comes home from work and he's cooking. He's organized. Right. He's very clean.
He's clean.
From a small
it's good
town.
To be clean, Dan.
It's good to be. Well, listen, trust me. As a disgusting person,
he brushes his teeth. Yeah, okay.
I'm just saying, he doesn't leave a mess in the kitchen, Ty.
Okay.
He doesn't leave a mess in the bathroom. His toenail clippings aren't everywhere. He's just he's a grown up. He's got it together. He's a catch, Ty. And maybe he's a little nervous and clams up at fancy occasions. And that's okay. He's from a small town. He's a little out of his element.
That's fine.
It's great.
He's still endearing. That's the thing about him.
You take him in a heartbeat, Ty.
Even though he might not fit perfectly into every highfalutin situation.
Right.
Still a good guy.
They're finishing each other's sentences, Ty.
Yeah. Yeah. Maybe they're the ones that start to look a lot alike.
Yeah.
Just physically.
I could see that. Absolutely.
What was your shaving situation on this honeymoon?
That's a great question. So I use a beard trimmer to sort of maintain the look this highly crafted look that I have.
Right. Well crafted.
I didn't shave for a while, and this is totally true. I didn't shave for a while. It started itching like crazy. I had my beard trimmer with me, trimmed everything, and it felt a lot better. I got home from the honeymoon, and what do I see? As I'm scratching my itchy neck, because I didn't bring a straight razor on the trip, which I used to shave my neck.
Yeah.
Just so I don't have an Andrew Luck neck beard.
Sure. The beard of bees, sure.
So I get back, and I've got this beautiful package from Harry's on my counter.
I got mine,
I have this, that's actually a double. And I was like, are you kidding? Manna from the gods.
Yeah.
And I take a shower, I shave up, and then I use this Harry's and the lotion they sent, the shaving cream, whatever. It's gel. It's phenomenal. Clean up the neck. Felt like a new man. And it all ties together to our beautiful wedding and marriage episode.
Harry's sent each of us 2 shave sets.
Yeah. Good heft.
I don't know if you had a chance to give your other one away if you're going to keep it for yourself. I gave mine away. I've already given Harry's away to all the fathers I know, but I found another gentleman at the mysterious day job who is a new father, and I said, here you go. He's got a very serious beard situation. I know he uses the straight razor to kind of manicure his beard. I gave it to him. He loves it.
Nice.
What's cool about Harry's right now is Father's Day is this weekend. All
Very
right?
true.
So it's a good gift for fathers out there. It gives you a close shave. I've been using Harry's forever. Gives you a close shave. You got the comfortable glide. It comes with a bunch of stuff right now at a fair price, which I think is what's important. 100% quality guarantee. They'll give you a full refund if you try it and you don't like it. Right now, go to harrys.com, harrys.com/solid, and redeem a special offer right now for Solid Verbal listeners. They will give you $5 off one of their shave sets. And I'm telling you, we got the shave set. It's pretty legit. Nice, sturdy handle. Comes with a little travel case for the razor, which I think is very underrated. You get some.
Oh, yeah.
You get some shaving cream in there. An underrated little metal stand to put your razor in. Just nice stuff, high quality stuff. Again, $5 off their shave sets. It is for a limited time, so you got to act now, but it's harrys.com/solid. You get $5 off and you will help support the Solid Verbal.
Do it.
So there you have. I'm actually going to play this one more time here, Dan.
I'm ready.
So what I didn't want to do in your absence, and I know you did it in my absence when I was in Jamaica when you did a show with Ryan, but I didn't.
Did I recap?
You kind of did a recap with Ryan.
Oh, I apologize.
No, it's fine. Bygones are bygones. That was like many moons ago, Dan.
Yeah. You did have the chance to eventually talk through it.
Absolutely. I wanted to talk to you about your wedding. Now,
okay.
We have many longtime listeners. They, I feel, were with me every step of the way through my wedding 2 years ago. Mm-hmm. And we've gotten a lot of tweets and emails and just commentary otherwise, people congratulating you on your marriage. I'm going to give you another round of applause here. Congratulations to you.
Thank you.
And
I'm going
your
to applaud.
Wife, the newest solid wife.
That's true.
You got married in Chicago. Would you like to walk people through the festivities, what we all experienced a couple weekends ago? Yeah,
so we got married in Chicago May 20. I should know my very recent anniversary.
Don't forget that, Dan. Very
May
important
28th.
Moving forward.
Yeah, Sunday, May 28th. Saturday was the rehearsal dinner. My parents hosted it at Manny's. Really good deli in Chicago just because we like deli food, and it was like an available space, and it was big and could rent it out. It was cafeteria style. I don't think we talked about your rehearsal dinner or anything because, I just am an idiot about food. But it was a terrific time, and there was trick-or-treating at the end of it. I didn't know any of that was going to happen. There were speeches that all turned out pretty well, I would say. West Coast Kevin and Illini fan Scott did a good job.
They scripted that out.
Yeah. They were going back and forth.
Even if the speech bombed, which it didn't, the speech was great. But even if it would have, you still had to give them props because they put a lot of heart and soul into that.
Yes. So they did a great job. The new solid wife, I really got to get permission. This is such a pain in the ass to say every time.
Yeah.
Her friends did a fantastic job. There was nobody overly drunk. There was it was just, everything was just good.
Doc Rubenstein put together, was that an iMovie video that I saw?
He uses Photo to Movie, which is like software for just slideshows with more, I don't know.
More pizzazz.
More pizzazz.
Yeah.
So that was like the whole thing of pictures of her and I growing up and then together, and everybody seemed to like that. And there was candy on all the tables, and at the end, everybody sort of could trick or treat and grab candy. Neither one of us are huge sugar people, but it seemed like a fun thing.
Sure.
And it was very cool to sort of see everybody gathered and ready for the big day. So did you eat well that night?
I ate well. Kate and I ate very well. Yep. We had numerous options at Manny's. Which I'm told is a very popular deli in the area. A lot of folks like it. It's actually quite big. When they opened up the like dividing door.
Yeah, they cordoned it off.
Dividing wall. You didn't realize how big of an establishment it was, but it was a very nice place. And a lot of great options, good food.
What did you eat?
Had some of their mac and cheese because they had it. And this is not because I'm uncultured. I mean, I am uncultured.
No, that's fine. It looked very good.
But they had two different kinds of mac and cheese, and I tried a kind with like a longer noodle that I hadn't seen before. They had some chicken there, which was really, really outstanding. Turkey.
Nice.
So I think I had a little bit of everything, and then some of the dessert options were pretty solid as well.
Good.
So I sampled a lot.
I had only been there to eat once beforehand, but that is like the legendary deli of Chicago.
Yeah,
apparently.
It was fantastic.
Like old style deli. Yeah.
Fantastic.
Next day... So did not sleep in the same hotel room as the new solid wife. I think I shared a room with one of my brothers. And next day woke up, went for a run with camera guy Dave, West Coast Kevin, Illini fan Scott. And that was nice. Ran along Michigan Avenue. So the hotel venue was right on. The hotel and the venue of the wedding were on the same block. And it was on Michigan Avenue overlooking Millennium Park and the lake. It was great. A place called Venue 610. Highly recommend having an event there. It was really cool. So went for a run. Then later on got tacos at Ruby's, which is, if you haven't been to Ruby's in Chicago, only open on Sundays, best all pasta store in the city, in my opinion. So that was wonderful. And then came back, got changed. The photographer was in the room, also in Solid Wife's room, taking pictures as we're getting dressed and prepared with some friends, and then walked over across the street to the park, took some pictures, which Where did you took your pictures on the Lehigh campus, correct?
We took our pictures, yes, on the Lehigh campus.
And it was a very nice day.
It was a nice day. I think we would have preferred it a little warmer, but we got married April 25th. So April 25th, Eastern
Crisp.
Pennsylvania. Yeah, a little brisk. We had a steady wind. All things considered, that time of year, we lucked out with the weather. So it worked out. It wasn't nearly as nice as I think it was for yours, but it worked out.
Yeah, ours was like 70 and sunny. It was incredible. How many times would you say, if I gave you an over-under of 11 and a half, how many times would you say the photographer said, all right, Ty and Kate, kiss?
We didn't have a whole lot of the kiss photos.
We had so many, and it was not requested. Yeah. It was not something I was like, hey, go heavy on the smooch requests. I never said that. I do not believe the new Solid Wife did either, because it was a lot. And you know what? Maybe the pictures will turn out great. Haven't seen them yet, but it was, all right, we're at the top of these stairs in the park. Give her a kiss. Okay, we're walking down this path. Give her a kiss. And like, our parents and family are all there. Yeah.
The lasting memory that I have of the photography situation, I kept thinking to myself, are you sure that we're not going to owe you extra for all the pictures you've taken? I feel like they took 25,000 pictures.
Yeah. So was this, you took some though after the ceremony, right?
Yeah, we had some during, we had some after the ceremony.
No, I mean like the posed outside stuff.
Yeah. I mean, we had some at the reception. But by and large, it just felt like a lot of photos, a ton of photos, and they obviously went through and cherry picked the better ones. But the photo situation to me, there were good photos, a lot of good photos that came out of that experience, but it was long. It was
it's a long
very
time.
long and sort of uncomfortable. I'm not used to posing like that.
We took one of those pictures like on a median on Michigan Avenue, like the big street in Chicago. Okay. So like if the cars passing by will be all blurry, but we're going to be in, that kind of thing. So we took a couple of those.
I have an important question.
Please.
In any of the photographs, did they capture the Mr. Leatherman contest that was also going on in Chicago that weekend?
Oh, we'll get there. They did not. We did not do that.
I won't steal your thunder. You can get to
No.
that. Okay.
I meant to talk about that before.
Continue.
What Ty is alluding to is on the same block in Chicago, and this is a thing that's been happening since 1979, Mr. Leather International.
Yes.
Pageant, I guess would be the word. I don't know what it exactly is, but it contests, and it's a lot of gentlemen wearing a lot of leather, or excuse me, a little bit of leather,
all
walking
very
up
tight,
and down.
Yeah.
The leather being tight.
The leather being tight,
yeah. Just I would walk down, and there would be a dude wearing shorts that were, we're talking about like a 3-inch inseam, like short leather shorts.
The shortest Umbros you can imagine, and way tighter.
Yes. Yeah. Maybe just a vest with nothing underneath it. Maybe lederhosen. Ryan Nanny saw two guys walking. One had like a lederhosen or something that said daddy and like a bejeweled look.
Yep.
And the guy next to him, it said daddy's boy.
Yeah. It was an interesting experience. Solid Wife Kate and I walked into a Thai restaurant and into a sea of men wearing tight leather.
Yeah.
And we looked around bewildered as to what was occurring, because
Dan's going after it for his wedding. That's what's going on.
Yeah. I wasn't sure what kind of a wedding you were hosting, Dan, at first, but then I looked it up online and I saw, that there was other festivities in Chicago, which added a little flavor for sure.
I was thrilled with it. I thought, the celebratory fever is in the air.
Yeah.
So
absolutely.
Also, my friend Mike, who was in town from Idaho, had been in town for 2 days because he got there early to go to a Cubs game and hadn't noticed a thing. Hadn't noticed, and is like, not because he's like, well, I just, I lived my life and whatever. He just was completely oblivious. And like, as he was saying this to me in like the hotel lobby, a dude walked in wearing leather chaps, no shirt, and a leather captain's hat.
Yeah.
And I was like, Mike, take a look. There's a lot of leather over there.
Yeah, a lot going on.
And the guy had like walked away by the time Mike turned around and didn't see it. And then I got a text from the next day. He was like, well, nope, you were right.
He was staying at the same hotel.
Yeah, absolutely he was.
That Kate and I were at. Mm-hmm. How you could possibly miss that is beyond me.
Yeah, it was a leather-bound weekend.
By the way, I did have a chance to meet Mike, who I believe was your first ever.
Yeah,
co-host,
that's true.
Right?
He was the first tie.
Nice guy. Way taller than me.
He's great.
Probably way better.
He was a lot taller.
But very nice.
6'4", deeper voice.
Yeah.
You're the more talented broadcaster.
Yeah.
So then we go in to the venue and just sort of getting ready beforehand, whatever, and just everything works out well. We have a couple musicians playing music as everybody's seated, and there's the processional. Everything starts out pretty well. Everybody's walking in, brothers, Solid Wife's brother, my now brother-in-law, parents, everything like that. I walk in, and obviously before the bride, there are flower girls, ring bearer, whatever, and a flower girl just eats it. And I wouldn't fully blame her. She's 2 years old, and there was like a very slippery runner running down the aisle. And, my parents were like, yeah, that wasn't like the easiest thing to walk on. And she just eats it and starts crying, as normal 2-year-olds will do. And then it was sort of a thing. And then everything went well.
Yeah.
At the ceremony. Oh, except for one other thing, which was unexpected to me, which I'm sure you remember this. We have a rabbi who marries us.
Yeah. Oh, wow. Yeah, you can't leave this part out.
So I had never met him before. When I say we have a rabbi, it's not a personal rabbi of mine. He was, Solid Wife's family knows him. And he was great. And, met him on Skype a little bit beforehand. And he's going over things like, and Dan, you promised to take care of her, as, spiritually and emotionally. And then there's just like this little gap in what he's saying, and then goes sexually. And so all of a sudden, it's sort of like my mind is in like Matrix Neo slow motion, like, what? As like the words are bullets flying at me.
It was literally like the hot stanky drum and fife, but during your wedding ceremony.
It wasn't like a vow. It wasn't like, and you, Dan, will take care. It was just sort of like, this is what marriage is. You're going to take care of her sexually. And he's like in his 70s. This is not like a cool, hip, young rap. No, this is just sort of like out of nowhere. In retrospect, it's, whatever. It's fine. What am I going to do? But after he says this, because we are facing forward. So it's not like we're holding each other's hands sort of perpendicular to the crowd and we can like see people. It's just we're seeing parents on the side view and the rabbi in front of us. And he goes sexually. And all of a sudden, for the next 12 seconds, I'm hearing all behind me as there are 150 people saying, did he just say sexual?
Well, my first thought is I haven't been to a whole lot of rabbi-led weddings, Jewish weddings.
Yeah.
And I'm like, maybe that's part of the normal regimen. Uh-huh. And then my second thought is that's probably not. And I bet Dan wrote that just to try and get a rise out of people.
Oh.
And then I talked to you afterwards, and I talked to everyone else afterwards, and everyone else was also caught a bit off guard by the sexually reference there.
Sexually.
Yeah.
And like, I get, obviously the ceremony ends, we kiss, I break the glass, which I did a great job with.
Yeah, you really put some chutzpah into that, Dan.
I stretched out beforehand.
Yeah.
And I think it was Ryan came up to me and just went sexually. And I was like, God damn. It was unexpected, but it's a good story. But it was very strange. Like, did he say that? And then, so there was that. Everything went well. I thought the party was terrific, and I'm biased, but thought the band was huge and wonderful. I thought they did a great job. Sort of, did you hear any classic rock, any 80s rock, Ty?
I think you did a pretty good job.
Not a song.
A pretty good job of guiding the musical adventure.
If it were a Spotify playlist, we're talking, Michael Jackson, Whitney Houston, Mariah Carey, just sort of 80s, 90s, no doubt about it, dance music, sing along, whatever. A little bit of sort of older, there was like Earth, Wind and Fire and Jackie Wilson, whatever, but really going for high energy. We had like the first dance. I had a custom intro for myself with the Chicago Bulls.
I caught that
introduction.
I caught that. And by the way, that hit on the wedding pool, which I will address here briefly.
Good.
That counts as we haven't discussed this at all, but that counts as a special dance intro.
Absolutely.
It was worth like 10 points.
I walked in with wearing a warm-up suit that I unzipped and ripped away tearaway pants to reveal my suit for that intro. Then we had the first dance. I thought the food was great. We had 4 stations. The donut wall was terrific. It wasn't as evenly dispersed as I pictured.
See, that was going to be. I'm not one to split hairs. Like you really took a battle axe to my wedding, Dan.
Is that true?
There are people in my family who don't ever want to talk to you again.
Wow. Oh, I thought you meant taking a battle axe to your wedding in terms of how good my wedding was.
No. I'm talking. You were very critical of my wedding after the fact.
All I said after
you said
the fact
the food was
wedding.
Okay. You didn't like the music. This is
no.
There are people in my family, Dan. You better not come around these parts anymore. Just saying.
We all have. First of all, we all have things we like and don't like that are unique to us. I thought the food was totally good at your wedding. The band was talented, but again, what did I just say? I didn't want 80s rock, and they played 80s rock. That's my taste. That's my personal taste.
I'm just saying, you come around these parts, you're going to get brushbacked.
I don't want to hear Living on a Prayer.
That's fine.
That's me. That's
fine.
me. It wasn't my wedding.
My one bit of critical feedback was going to be the asymmetrical quality of the donut wall pegs.
You're not wrong.
I was looking at one point I walked over to it and I stared at it as if it were one of those magic eyes, like I was trying to see the sailboat or some hidden shape within. I was really trying to figure out for the life of me what the logic behind the peg sequence was. It seemed to be somewhat random.
Yeah, it looked like an alien invader, like the pixelated, just sort of. I did not know that. I thought it was going to be like looking at a Connect 4 board, like a full.
That's what I thought. And on the wedding sheet, I had an over under of 90 donut pegs.
Yeah, no, that was
and it went way under. There were like 14 on there. Yeah. But in a different pattern than I had expected. The donuts were fine. The donuts were great. The donut wall to me, it wasn't so much that I didn't like it as I was just trying to figure it out. I was curious.
I think a lot of, or at least a percentage of the donut wall appeal is that aesthetic of just looking at a wall with rows and rows of pegs of donuts. Yeah. And this was more, and maybe this is an efficiency thing. I don't run weddings professionally. Maybe it was like a fewer pegs, but like have multiple donuts on each pegs is just like a more efficient way of doing things. I don't know. That's what it ultimately was. I got myself a blueberry old-fashioned donut, and I was thrilled. So
they were very good. Their donuts
ultimately ended up well. But yeah, you're not wrong. I did not know that was going to happen. I probably should have brought it up, but who, at this point, spill
water under the bridge. It's fine.
Absolutely. Nobody, you're going to go over the gambling pool. I thought the band was terrific. The food seemed to work out well. I don't think people were waiting in lines for the majority of the time, if at all, for a lot of the stations. I thought it moved pretty quickly. The crowd was great. You knew a lot of like the SB Nation and sports people that were there.
It was great.
Our friend Bill Barnwell, who will be back on the show,
yes,
in a few weeks here, probably to do a new specialty episode. Had a good time. Our friend Nicole Auerbach was there. It was a great time. So I'm relieved it's all over, just because a lot went into it, and went to a bar briefly afterwards nearby. But no, I wouldn't. Our final song, I think, was Mariah Carey's "Fantasy."
Yep.
I thought they did a great job with that. I was on stage for a song, a customized song. Listen, Ty, I thought it was a roaring success.
You did a very good job.
Kate's thoughts? Did Kate enjoy herself?
Kate very much enjoyed herself. We both
good.
We had a great time in Chicago, and it was just a lot of fun. Congratulations! To you guys again.
Was not, unlike the wedding that I attended in Allentown. I was not the best dancer on the dance floor that night. I was the sweatiest. Yeah. I was perhaps the most enthusiastic, but Matt Ufford
has moves. He does have moves.
He goes after it.
He fully commits to it. That's the thing about dancing. I'm not a good dancer. I can't.
It's about commitment. You're right.
You have to fully commit. It doesn't matter how bad it looks. If you fully commit, that's fine. Mm-hmm. And he really goes for it.
And he has moves. He
does have moves too. Yeah. So his wife actually won the wedding pool.
Is that true?
Yes, his wife tied with my wife for the wedding pool. Actually, Ryan has been after me to send out the results. I have yet to do that. I've been tied up, but I will be sending those out in short order. But I had things like, over under length of wedding ceremony, how many guest tables are there going to be, how many toasts and speeches will there be. I told you about the pegs.
Right.
The big one, though, was really the random events. And the way that the pool works is you put a series of events that could possibly occur and have people pick 3 of them. So things like the bride and groom doing a special dance move upon entrance at the reception, that's nearly a given. That's like a 5, a 10-pointer. No
wasn't
big deal.
Dancing per se, but it was a special,
it's a special
intro. Yeah,
it's a special move. You have things like the groom will cry or faint, which I've seen happen. I don't believe you did either.
I did not do either.
You
Solid
didn't look
Wife
like
has
you
seen
did.
it recently, but
Yeah.
I have not.
Then you step up to things like the MC is going to mispronounce somebody's name, which I also think they did okay. I don't think they were.
Yeah, I think they were clean. Yeah.
Then you get to things like an ice sculpture. Didn't see any of those. We're getting progressively higher in point total here.
Right.
The flower girl or ring bearer getting spooked and or refusing to walk down the aisle. I counted that. That because I heard
if
crying.
I had inside information, I would have said 5 out of 5 certainty to go for it.
We heard crying. We heard one of the younglings yelling "no" in the back before the ceremony. Kate and I counted that. Nicole Auerbach was the only one who got that.
Wow.
And that was like a solid 15, 20, 25 points, somewhere in there. The other one that got a ton of action that I was a little disappointed didn't happen was we had heavy action. 93% of our respondents thought that the rabbi was either going to reference the University of Michigan or the University of Oregon, and he did not.
Well, wait, who didn't reference University of Oregon or Michigan?
The rabbi.
Oh, the rabbi didn't.
He needed to actually say the words Michigan or Oregon, and he did neither.
Okay, but tangential, Ty. The yarmulke had both an Oregon and a Michigan logo on it.
I specifically said in the random event section about the rabbi.
Fair is fair.
Then you have other things about someone wearing jeans, live doves. I had a first dance wager in there that someone would puke or pass out, things like that.
The first dance was pre-2005, our song, I believe.
You had Ingrid Michaelson, which I believe was 2006 maybe.
Oh, okay.
The over-under we had was like 2011, so it was way under. But
good.
I will be sending those results out. I'll copy you on it.
Wow.
Just so that
Jenny
you can
Alford
see it.
takes it home.
Yep. Jenny and wife tied and my wife, tied with 90 points. And then we had some other wedding/marriage luminaries like Illini fan Scott, your brother Alex, someone else who tied for second with 75 points. But good time all around. Again, I thank you for the invite. It was great to get out to Chicago. And I trust that you had a great trip. We don't need to go into the full details of the trip, but Greece and Italy.
Mooning was great. Mooning was fantastic. 80 degrees and sunny every day.
Wow.
Got a ton of sun.
That's great.
Couple boat rides, one in Greece, one in not ferries. Like we went on excursions around the islands and jumped in Sulphur Springs and the beautiful Amalfi Coast.
That's awesome.
I enthusiastically recommend Captain Ted in Greece. That's his name, and he's wonderful, and it was a great boat trip. Rome was great. I know a lot of people either really love Rome. It's, it's a little bit dirty and there's ruins everywhere, and it's a lot to take in. I loved it. Ate really well. Our pal David Wunderlich, who actually I think lives in Naples, sent us a long email saying to not eat Roman pizza. I did have Roman pizza once, just because it's thin and not as tasty as Neapolitan, the more classic or more well-known style of Italian pizza. But I got plenty of Neapolitan pizza both in Rome and outside of Rome.
Nice.
Amalfi Coast was fantastic. I will tell you this, Ty. At our hotel, which was great, shout out to Casa Angelina in Priano, in the Amalfi Coast. One, they have so it's in the cliffs over the water, and there's a beach club at the base. And beach is sort of a misnomer because there's not sand. You just sort of jump off of the cement on the club into the water, and it's great. The water's great. I went topless.
Okay.
At the beach club, just because you're in Europe and whatever.
Sure.
No, there were a number of people who sort of exercised that very European mentality with clothing or lack thereof.
Okay.
Ty, what I'm telling you is it was Mike Pence's nightmare. It was. And you know what, Ty? The people that were exercising this were not unattractive.
Okay.
They were not swamp monsters.
That's the logical next question.
There was an Australian contingent, Ty, that acquitted themselves very nicely.
Okay.
So there was that situation, but that was great. The other thing I will add, and this is the final night. We decided to go to the super nice restaurant that's within our hotel. And we just didn't want to travel. We wanted it to be like, it's overlooking the water. It's beautiful. So we go to this place knowing it's super nice. It was the most, and I don't mean this in a purely negative way, because it was delicious. The food was very good. It was like the most pretentious experience in a restaurant I've ever had. And that's probably more reflective on me not really caring that much about fine dining, but I just didn't expect it. First of all, I walked in wearing a button-down. It was a hot day. It was at 8 o'clock, 8:30, whatever. A button-down, shorts, nicer shorts though, chino shorts, and flip-flops, which is that's on me. You got to be better with footwear. And so the elevator opens at the hotel right into where the host is standing, the maitre d' or whatever. The host is standing at this indoor-outdoor hotel, or indoor-outdoor restaurant above the hotel. She looks at me and she's like, "Oh, welcome. What time is your reservation?" Blah, 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 8:30. And then she says, "All right, we will get you all set, but we do have a no flip-flop policy."
No eye slides, Dan. No eye slides at all.
No eye slides. None to be seen. Yeah. So as soon as you're able to change into closed-toed shoes, it doesn't matter what kind, but we do need a closed toe from gentlemen. We'll seat you when I'm happy to serve you. I'm like, cool. So we go back to the elevator, and I'm fuming. I'm like, never in my life. Never have I been so... And I'm like, let's just go to the cafe across the street. And Solid Wife was like, hey, we're here, And she then was like, well, maybe we should. And I was like, no, let's go to the back. And I just put on, my crappy shoes that I was walking in all day. And we go back, we sit down, and it's super nice. We look at the menu. A woman comes over and she's like, oh, can I start you off with wine, water, whatever. And we say, yeah, let's do a glass of wine and you like flat water. It's because it's flat or sparkling.
Sure.
And she says, great. And she comes over with not a piece of paper, but a book. Why don't you take a look at our water menu? Why don't you take a look at our water menu? So we then found water. That was like a $7 bottle of Evian, because that was basically the cheapest, I think. Got a water menu. And our reservation was for 8:30. And like between courses, we get appetizers and drinks, whatever. They just keep bringing you little bites. And the meal takes for friggin' ever. It took so long, much like this podcast.
Right.
But we're like 2.5 hours in, exhausted. We need to get up the next morning at like 6 a.m. and they just keep bringing stuff. And it's all delicious. And we're just full and tired. And we order desserts. I get like a chocolate mousse. It comes in a little bowl, a spoon, whatever. And as I'm eating the chocolate mousse, I look down, and as you can imagine, chocolate mousse comes in a little bowl, little spoon, whatever. I realize that both the bowl and spoon are made of chocolate. And I was like, you know what? This is wonderful. This is excellent.
Life's not so bad.
Life's not so bad. And we're full. And then I asked for the check, and they're like, well, one more thing. And they wheel over a tray with like 15 pounds, literally 15 pounds of just chocolate. And I have to turn away a dessert tray of chocolate because I'm full. And that was,
wow.
I was turned away for my flip-flops, and then the evening ends with me turning away a 15-pound chocolate tray. It was a good time. I recommend the Amalfi Coast to any, but Positano is pretty touristy. Capri is very touristy. I yelled at a middle-aged woman over taxis who accused me of cutting a line. I didn't speak any Italian and she didn't speak English. It was not great.
Yeah.
Other than that is a beautiful area of the world, Ty, and it was very difficult to leave. So I had a great time.
Well, good. It's good to have you back, but I'm glad you had that experience, and it was a lot of fun to share in the festivities with you guys. So thank you again for the invite. And
tell me who is upset at me.
Who was upset
about the comments? Dan, about the comments of your wedding.
No. I'm not saying anything more.
Is it that fraud, Elliot?
People on this side of the fence seem to think that you were very critical of the Hilton Brand nuptials.
Are we talking about Uncle Joe?
I'm not giving out names.
Are we talking Mama H?
I'm not going to give my sources away. I can't talk about it in an open session.
I had a magical time at your wedding.
All right.
It was a Patriot League wedding. How could I be upset about that?
This has been a fun show.
Yeah.
Please do subscribe to the podcast if you haven't already. If you haven't had enough of this by now, we're at itunes.com/solidverbal if you want to subscribe on Apple Podcasts. We're also on Facebook and Twitter. Instagram, Snapchat, the usuals. Do check out our sponsors for this evening, Blue Apron, endorsed by my friend from work, as well as Harry's, endorsed by both Dan and I here for all of your shaving needs.
May I ask one more question?
Yeah, please.
Or maybe you're already going in this direction. What do we have coming up until the season?
It's funny you should ask that, Dan.
Because we're in mid-June right now.
We know each other quite well. We've actually done some long-range planning.
Oh, man.
Which is uncomfortable for us. It's not something we learned until about a year and a half ago. But
right. Yeah.
We've got a few concepts coming up here in the next few weeks. As we get into July, I think we really get into the stuff that we're really excited about. We've got another one of our How College Football Works shows coming up. We did How Coaches Get Hired.
Yeah.
We did How New Quarterbacks Get Brought Aboard with Yogi. We're going to do a How Recruiting Works. We're gonna roll out the red carpet here.
Yes.
And do a full-on production How Recruiting Works, which we're both excited about. We've got the show coming up with our good friend Bill Barnwell at some point later in July. We're still not going to give the concept of that show away because we don't want anyone else to do it, but I'm really excited about that one.
I think it's going to be a very polarizing show.
We've also got later on in July, probably before we get into August and start doing team previews and whatnot, we're going to do the history of the Solid Verbal because this is going to be our 10th full season doing the show. And much like our friends over at the Starters, a.k.a. the Basketball Jones, we're going to walk you through the full 10-year history of how Dan and I got to doing all this stuff anyway. So that'll be a lot of fun. Team previews coming up in August. Obviously, latter part of August, we're going to start doing some weekly previews. And before we get there is going to be a live gig, presumably on a Saturday night in August, where we do our Fantasy Things draft, which we got to start talking about probably after the show. But keep your ears peeled for that. We'll send out notice to the email list, and we'll certainly talk about it on the podcast. But it's going to be one Saturday night in August.
Yes, it's going to be great.
We got a shirt coming out at some point in the next couple of weeks, which we're excited about. All sorts of things breaking here on the Solid Verbal front. So
pay attention. Where should we find out? I mean, will we send out a newsletter of intent?
Yep. We'll do it much like we did last time. Yeah, great. We'll take orders in advance so that everyone who wants one can get one. Just got to make sure you pay attention. I got some folks who are waiting for a new shirt to drop. So just stay tuned. All the usual channels, Facebook, Twitter, and if you're part of the newsletter of intent mailer, we'll send it there as well.
Indeed. That's all I got in me, Ty.
Dan, this has been fun, a little longer than usual, but we got the full recap. We talked about marriages on the college football side and on the Rubenstein side as well. Congratulations to you again, fine sir. It is good to have you back. And thank you to everyone out there for bearing with us here as we went through the full recap of all things college football and otherwise. For that guy over there and for myself, Ty Hildenbrandt here in good old Eastern PA. Thanks again for listening. Catch you in a week, and in the meantime, stay solid.
Peace.